Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 5th episode of Conversations About Anxiety. And we're very happy that you would take a few minutes and listen to this conversation. We've just finished praying, asking, Lord, would you please speak to us, speak through us, guide these words. We're also praying already that as you're listening, He would guide you as you listen and take it in, and that there'd be something in this for you that would be beneficial to you, whether you suffer with anxiety or whether you're trying to look after somebody who suffers. So we're praying for you, and we're happy that you're with us. This conversation is particularly important to us. It's stirring in us for all kinds of reasons, but like you, either you struggle with anxiety or you know somebody who does, and most likely you know many someones who do. And especially in the age that we're living in the middle of COVID and racial unrest, et cetera, people are experiencing anxiety that maybe have never struggled with it before. And so this is an important conversation to have. A lot of people are having it. And so we're adding our voices and praying that this would be meaningful content for you to maybe help unlock some doors into more understanding and transformation ultimately. So let me introduce you to my fearless panel, and I'll start at the top. Dr. Laura Cavarretta. She is a doctor of psychology. She has a private practice here in Southern California. She does a whole slew of things. But she is an expert in helping people with addiction and recovery. And so she has many years of experience pouring into people's lives, and she's been absolutely invaluable to us. And I know that you'll find her insight invaluable as well. So thanks, Laura, for one more week. Appreciate it so much. Down there we have Summer Thurman with the dark hair, and Summer is also a very invaluable part of our team. She's an educator, teaching kindergarten right now here in Southern California. Well, not right now. Right now she's with us, but about to start her 2nd year of full-time teaching. Absolutely amazing, courageous young lady, and Summer deals with anxiety on a daily basis. So she's here to tell a little bit of her story, to give us a lens into what it would be like to have to deal with this day in and day out. So you'll want to hear what she has to say. And Summer, thank you again. And then Stacy DeWitt, who is the director of James Storehouse, a nonprofit that serves the foster community here in Ventura and LA County. And she is dealing in trauma every day. Just about every person that walks over the threshold of James Storehouse to come in for resources is in the throes of crises. And so their normal is dealing with trying to come alongside people right in the initial hours of probably the worst moments of their life, and not only provide tangible resources, practical resources, whether it's a diaper or a bed or a crib, but also to provide loving emotional support in those moments. So she has a level of experience that's really unique and also very valuable as we have this conversation. So thanks, Stacy DeWitt. All right, we are having our final episode. That makes me a little bit sad, but I know it's been a great 5 weeks, and we're coming to the end, and that's the right thing. So anxiety recovery, that's what I'm titling tonight's episode. And my little subtitle is There is Good Reason to Be Hopeful. And a great deal of what we want to talk about in just these few minutes is what our takeaway is after 5 weeks of not just talking together, but studying in between our recordings, learning, thinking, praying, that each of us has come away hopeful because of what we've discovered. And I'm just thrilled about that. So more than anything in this episode, we want to communicate hope to you. Wherever you are in the spectrum of I suffer with a little bit of anxiety, or anxiety for me is debilitating, We believe with certainty that there are resources for you that will help you take steps forward so that you can realize a higher quality of life than you might be experiencing right now. So I am beyond hopeful to have discovered far more in the way of findable, reliable content than I imagined was out there. And folks, I'm just opening up my laptop or iPad just like you are. So I guess what I want to tell you is if you look around and hunt, you're going to find good stuff. And hopefully this is part of that good stuff. And the resources that we put below the video screen here each week are also resources that we recommend as being reliable with really good content that will help you. So if you want an education about anxiety and how to cope with it, you can get one. Yeah. So two things I want to say, and then we're going to pass it off to Stacy down here. For you who are supporting people with anxiety, I want to say to you, as a supporter of someone with anxiety, it's critical that you help. If I'm a supporter, that I help my loved one find their own way to the help that's best suited for them. I'm not talking about a little one. But your older, teenage and up, that I do everything I can to help them find the methodology that's best suited for them. And I have to remember that I'm in a support role. And so if my loved one is able, they need to be in charge of how they set up their own protocol. That just was on my mind today. When you suffer with anxiety, I've suffered with it enough to know you already feel as if your own mind is betraying you. Your own mind is trying to sort of overrule you in a way. It's really important to have some sense of charge and control over how you set up your own path to healing. So that was on my mind for those of us who are supporters. And then as a person suffering with anxiety or panic attacks, I'm just reminding myself and you, if you're that person, that to whatever degree we have to take responsibility for doing all we can to help ourselves. So we need supporters, and we have to work hard on our own behalf too. That's why if you know people suffering, you know how heroic they are. It's a lot of work. But it can have a tremendous yield. So those were just a couple little things on my mind. So Stace, you have some things I know that you want to share with us, reasons that you feel hopeful at the end of these weeks of conversations about anxiety.
Yeah, I love that this is a conversation about hope, because in my journey, my personal journey, and then walking beside others, I didn't know that there was a through, I should say. Mm-hmm. There's a way through, and there's hope on the other end. Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is that the Lord is with you in it. Whether you're caring for someone or you're going through it personally, the Lord is with you in it, and to look for him. Mm. Whether you're a believer or you're not, you could say, I'm looking for you, God. If you are real, I'm looking for you, God. Or I know you're real, God, and I need you to show up for me in my real life right now. To be looking for him. And one example that popped into my head, I completely forgot about this memory, but it came fresh today. And it was during a time I had a family member hospitalized with anxiety. And we had no hope in those moments. Mm-hmm. We were just fearful. And I remember praying and just saying, like, Lord, this is one of the lowest moments of my life. And I don't feel you. I don't see you. I don't see a way through, but I trust you and I'm looking for you. Mm-hmm. So I just set that down at his feet. And I just began to look for the Lord. I didn't know where I would see him or how it would come, but I knew that he'd be with me in it. And wouldn't you know, when I arrived at the hospital, who was sitting in a chair outside of our family member's hospital room was a nurse, and he was reading something. And I said, what are you reading? And he said, I'm just declaring scripture over the person in this room. Promises of God. And I just like immediately had tears in my eyes, because I knew that the Lord placed him right there in front of my family member's room. And then he said, and I go up and down the halls when everyone's sleeping, and I just pray scripture over everyone in here. And I don't know if he was an angel or a real nurse. I never saw him again. It didn't matter. But I was looking for the Lord, and he showed me his presence. So that's one real reason to have hope and to look for God in this, whether you're a caregiver or personally. And another one is that real healing can happen. I didn't know that, but real healing can happen. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen overnight, although it could happen quickly for some people, or it could take a long time. It could be a lifetime, or it could require medication or therapy, or everyone's journey is different, but there's real healing. I have my own personal journey of anxiety and panic attacks in college, and how the Lord, he healed me from those. And I am able to comfort others with the comfort that the Lord gave me. So I want people to know that, to look for God, to have hope for him. He will show up for you in just the way that you need it. And real healing is ahead.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thanks.
Summer, what's on your mind to share with us?
Well, first, I'm just like mind blown at that story, Stacy. That's so beautiful. I was like tearing up. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good.
So, I've noticed the Lord really transform my heart into a heart of gratitude over these past few weeks. And that's really, really helped me with my anxiety. And before we I was like, there's no hope, I'm going to suffer. But I've had those pockets of special moments with the Lord, giving thanks to him for everything that he's done for me, and I see the hope in that. I see that through my struggles, through my challenges, God is with me, and he's showing me a lot of amazing things through a struggle, Yeah. So through my pain, through my suffering, through my struggling, God is still good. He is still faithful, and I'm so, my hope comes from the Lord. So that's something I've really learned over these past few weeks. I've also received hope from others. I've really gotten to know a network of people that care about me and care about what I'm going through. And especially you guys, I would have stereotyped you guys as not understanding me because, that's how I felt all my life. But there are people out there that care about you, even if they aren't going through it, or even if they have gone through it. And there's hope in that, having others to walk alongside me and partner with me and relate to me has been so helpful and has brought me so much hope.
Oh, so good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, you've enriched our lives a whole lot. So, and we're just so grateful to see how God has been meeting you, and excited about your future. We really are. So,
yeah.
I love that. I just wanted to say, to be able to have people to relate to you, to know what you're going through, no matter if they're your same age peer or older or younger, just there's this common understanding and friendship that can happen just out of that.
Yeah,
so
that's
amazing.
Right. That's right. Yeah, it's an interesting too to be in your mid 50s and sort of fine tuning a little bit of education about what's possible. And especially because my son suffered so profoundly as a kid, and having a passion grow in me so that somebody who was going through what I went through 20 years ago, trying to help my then little boy who was suffering profoundly, who maybe could help them in ways that I couldn't, because there just wasn't information to be had or resources to be found. And so the Lord met my family. But boy, if I could go back in time, I would take a big old toolbox with me. And I'd be so grateful to have it. So it's an exciting thought to think that that because of what God is showing people about how to deal with, manage, recover from these different issues that people are having, that real meaningful change can take place. And so, Laura, healing, like Stacy already alluded to, is going to look a little bit different for all of us. And I don't know if it would be accurate to say that healing is relative, but it's just going to look different for each person depending on what's happening to them. We never even talked about in all these conversations things like what can cause anxiety to present. I mean, we alluded to some things, but we didn't talk about head trauma. We didn't talk about all different kinds of things that if they happen to you could be a catalyst for anxiety all of a sudden showing up or panic attacks showing up. But healing doesn't look the same for all of us. So help us understand what we might expect in terms of forward motion, depending on where we are on the anxiety spectrum and all of that.
I think that something we've touched on is the importance of early awareness. You know, the earlier you can understand what you're going through or what a loved one is going through, usually the better result, you know, because you can, like we've been talking about, like kind of nip it in the bud, and the layers of anxiety that develop, the fear of having a panic attack, and then the isolation and people wanting to just stay indoors because that feels safe, and developing agoraphobia, and all of those things don't have to happen if you can address it right away. And like we talked about, and I didn't realize this until I looked it up, this has been very helpful for me, like a real little refresher course, to say that, okay, it wasn't even diagnosed until like 1980. So I have a friend who's pretty young, 21, that's pretty young. And she was saying to me, she said, you know, I was reading this psychology book and I realized that I suffer from panic disorder. And I'm like, well, tell me about that. And she said that she was in a restaurant, obviously this is pre-COVID, but there was a lot of activity going on the street. And she started to feel warm, and she started to feel like she needed to leave the building. And I believe what had happened was there was some sort of violent event that was in the news surrounding like a college campus, and she was near a college campus. So she had that in mind. And then she saw some activity, odd activity, like a car pulling up and then going away. And then she felt those physical feelings and she felt like she needed to leave. So she said, I had a panic attack, and she did. She did have a panic attack, but recognizing that. And then the other part was, the other criteria was having a fear of it happening again. So what was in her favor is she has this information. I had a panic attack. I now have a fear of it happening again. And of course, I sent her on Amazon a panic attack workbook, you know, so she could kind of put those pieces together. And she has a real shot at being able to not have that again. Or if she does, she'll know what it is, so she doesn't develop some of those complicating factors. And what I've been seeing lately too, which is so awesome, there are books for children on things like mindfulness. And there was one that I was looking at, and it said, the title is "Right Now I'm Fine." And it shows the front of it is, oh gosh, these are great resources for you, Summer. Right now I'm fine. And the front is a drawing of a little boy, and he's hugging himself. And that's part of the mindfulness, and saying, just give yourself a hug and know that right now I'm fine. So we are getting to know what these tools are, and they're being translated so that even children can start to understand the concept of anxiety, which is fear of something that's going to happen, and it's to an irrational degree, and it affects us from the more minor to the profound. And when I say minor, like with this friend I'm talking about, that was profoundly disturbing for her, absolutely. So I'm not judging or trying to scale it in any way. And then you mentioned the support system, or being that supportive person. And as we talked about, you don't have to have the answers. You don't need to know what's going on. You can just say, I care about you. I want to be with you. Is there anything I can do? And this was an episode where I wasn't present, but a lot of it is people have sort of this fear, like, I don't know how to help you. I don't know what's going on. And, I was saying, I think in the next episode, if it's a medical emergency, you don't need to know how to fix it, but you can come alongside that person, right, and be there with them. And also say, I can go with you, to therapy. I can go with you, to a codependent anonymous meeting. I'll be with you. And we are just designed to find healing and connection. And I was really touched by what you were saying, Stacy, that we have that healing and connection, and it's often people, right, that are in between, sometimes us and God, and they're the ones pointing us to God. Like that gentleman who is the nurse that was outside of the hospital room. And there, at times when I can really get it, that God is for me, He is with me, those are the most peaceful moments. But if you can't get there, you may need, like we've talked about, you may need medication to kind of address some of those pathways that are so ingrained in our brains. You may need therapy once a week. You may need therapy twice a week. I recently had someone that we're doing therapy twice a week, and I'm here in the office that I share with a psychiatrist, and he's on medication. He said, can I do anything else? So you have to also be that advocate for yourself that says, okay, this is good, but it's not enough. So I pointed him in the direction of going to like an intensive outpatient program. But people aren't going to know unless you communicate, it's not enough. I'm not okay. Not okay. And there are so many levels of care that when people ask me, will I get better? I'm like, yes, you will get better. We may need to go to a high level of care. We may need to go to medication. We may need to go to TMS. We haven't talked much about that, but there are so many treatments out there. You will get better. I don't know of anyone who hasn't. It may take longer. It may be more complicated. You may need more intensive treatment, but you will get better. And I am highly, highly confident of that. And if it comes again, when I was in school, I may have mentioned this at some point. I had a professor that said, yeah, I've been seeing people for 10 years. And I'm thinking, I don't know that you're a very good therapist. For 10 years. But now I have people that come back and they're just at a tough point in their lives. And I'm so grateful that they come back. So sometimes there might be a recurrent stress that happens again. Go get that connection, go get that help, go back and get that healing. And usually it's not the 20, 50 weeks that it took the first time. It's almost like a little bit of a booster shot in a way. Yeah. And people are able to get over it quickly. And part of it is the confidence that they already did. And that's part of what you're also sharing, I think, Summer and Stacy, to have those people that say, I got through it. I know what you're going through and I got through it. And that is really helpful. I'll tell my clients, I can't have gone through every mental illness, so I can't know exactly what all of you, because I probably wouldn't be a very good therapist if I had. But I know what it is to be in pain. I know what that is. And so I can relate to you on that level for sure.
Really good. This whole conversation, as we've said in other episodes, it falls for each of us through a lens of a Christian. We're all Christians. We're all followers of Jesus Christ. And so we look at life and our response to all conversations, including this one, through that Christian worldview, which is why we keep talking about reaching for the Lord and saying, and he's there and he hears and he helps. And I was thinking about a particular psalm this afternoon that gives some language to the way that God has always been helping people who are in distress. And I'm just going to read a few verses to you. I'm just going to grab those portions of Psalm 107 that gives you some language of the beautiful way that God meets people in all manner of distress. It says in verse 9 that he satisfies the longing soul. The hungry soul he fills with good things. It says he shatters the doors of bronze and cuts in two the bars of iron. It says that he sent out his word and healed them and delivered them from their destruction. It says he made the storm be still and the waves of sea were hushed. And it says that he turns deserts into pools of water, parched land into springs of water. And at the end of this chapter, it says that he raises up the needy out of their affliction and he makes their families like flocks. The upright see it and are glad. And then it says finally that whoever is wise, let him attend to these things. Let them consider the steadfast love of the Lord. And so all those beautiful descriptions of the way God delivered people out of their distress are evidence of his love, and they're actually expressions of his love. And so when we encourage you that God made you and loves you, he loves in very practical ways. And it's not, while it's not just a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's a hug when it needs to be, but it's also exceedingly practical. And God is an excellent caregiver. And when Jesus walked this earth, it says that he suffered all kinds of things. And where we might not be able to identify with the nuances of what you're going through, Jesus can. And so there's no one better for you to run to than him and ask for help that he really is eager to give you. So that's out of Psalm 107. And after all those descriptions of things that he did, do you know what it says? It asks people to, let me find it here. Let them thank the Lord for his steadfast love, for his wonderful works to the children of men. And that brings us right back to one of the things that the Lord's been teaching Summer, and just helping her see things through a lens of gratitude. And that's been super transforming. And it is for all of us. Gratitude's a big deal. And talk about mindfulness. For all that might be going wrong, there are always things to look at and go, but I'm breathing, but I have shelter, but I have, whatever it is for you. And it's a very real and powerful practice to say what is good back to the Lord, and see what gratitude will do to transform your view of that particular moment. So I just want to thank you so much, ladies, and those of you that are watching. Thanks for being with us during these conversations. If there are people that you think would benefit from these, I pray that you would share them. So you're either watching them on YouTube now or on my website. We've also finished, before we started these, we did 6 or 7 episodes called Conversations About Peace. And that's sort of this conversation turned up this way. And I also highly recommend those. If we can conquer anxiety, what should live in its place? And those conversations will give you some insight into that. God is offering us his peace in the midst of trouble, not in place of trouble, but in the midst of it. So far from just getting rid of anxiety or minimizing anxiety, the Lord is saying, I actually want you not to just be anxiety free, but full of my peace. And so you have wonderful things in store for you if you put yourself under the influence of your Creator. And you do that simply by just reaching out and saying, Lord, I want you to be the Lord of my life. I need you, and I believe that you are the one and true God, that Jesus Christ came and paid the debt for my sin and built a bridge so that I can be reconciled, is our fancy Christian word, to you through faith in Jesus Christ. And so we're inviting you to come into the family of God through faith in Jesus Christ. And then you will know as a father and friend and savior, this one who we've been describing throughout all these conversations. So God bless you. We love you. The Lord loves you deeply. And we're hoping that through these conversations and through the Holy Spirit working in you, you will find true, meaningful, lasting help for yourself or for those that you love. All right. Thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of your night.